All right, everybody, welcome back. I know it's been a little bit of time, had some things come up. You know how it is. But I do want to dive back into this, to what our hypothesis is, trying to get this special teams ranking system created off of NFL data. If you were joining us the last two, make sure you check out the last 3 weeks, week 1, week 2, week 3, which is just getting the data, loading it in, getting it all in a raw format into the place that I need to use it. Now we're going to start diving into the data and exploring what's available in the data sets themselves. And I got a nice little whiteboard to kind of point that out. I'll probably end up splitting this one into multiple ones to kind of get an idea of what we're going to do, but now I can kind of look at the data, at least the categories or the column names in that case, if you're more familiar with like Excel or spreadsheets or tables. We'll look at the column names, see what data is located in those. Then I can start writing down what I want to eliminate, what I want to keep, and what I might want to do with this data as we go into the actual process of cleaning it, so I can have a plan in place when I go through it. It's always a great process to have some kind of plan in place, and then we can think of some ways to feature engineer if I don't have it right off the top of my head. So, and how to conceptualize data as we're working through a problem to try to come up with a solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my whiteboard here, and you can see that we have the data that I've downloaded in from the different CSV files. So we had the play data here, we have tracking data, we got player data, game data, and then this PFF scouting data, which is for the special teams plays themselves. So I'm going to go through this, and like I said, I may split this up. I'm going to start with like the two general columns, and basically when we're dealing with data, and if you've ever dealt with relational tables or anything like that, whenever we're dealing with data and we want to filter it by a certain items like players, this says every player and every play in NFL for the last 3 years. I don't want every player and every play, obviously. I only want the data that I want. So I'm going to have to filter this data. The way that I do this is find similar columns that I can build relationships within the data. So even in Python or SQL or whatever, I can filter down to what I need and then save that as its own data frame, to which then we can start further cleaning it, but at least I have it in a more organized and clean format. So that's what we're doing. We're moving from this raw format, and I want to put it more into just a clean format where I'm just filtering out the data that I want, getting rid of duplicates, getting rid of null values, so on and so forth. Then I'll aggregate the data and take it into an even more what they call the analytic state, I guess you can call it, or a gold level from a Databricks perspective. They call it bronze, silver, and gold. But from a gold level, we're going to aggregate the data how we want to perform our analytics on. So if I have every player in a table, I may want to take their average weight and see, maybe that has some type of impact on the resulting score that we come up with. But first, I need to kind of decide what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of, just so I have a better sense of what data is going to be relevant when I load it all in, and I'm not keeping any fluff. Then I can work on cleaning it and getting the way that I want it. But I am going to need to make sure that I have identifiers to where I can build relationships between these tables in case I do need to filter out data. So player data. Now when I think of what our goal is here, is we're trying to come up with a special team. So a team, you got your offense, your defense, and your special teams. We're trying to come up with a special team factorization process, kind of like the QBR is for quarterbacks, although that's position specific. We want to define the entire team based on their performance over the last 3 years, and then kind of find a average score, so to speak, and then apply that to some type of factorization, whether we determine that's going to be a score of 50 is average, or 60 or 70, or whatever that is in that case. I may reference some outside sources to see what they use for QBR or something like that as the average score for a quarterback, or whatever, and then work our way up or down from there based on that. And then we can start a ranking system. Say, oh, we're ranking this team, one, and we can go week to week if we're, consistent, and it's significantly or statistically significant for the purpose that we've created this. And we could track this during the year. I'd have to build in an API. Again, if you subscribe to the channel and or want to donate to the cause, then by all means, reach out to me. My email should be on there, and we can build this API together and even create a video series for it. So that's what's going to happen. But first, I want to get at least the a couple of these identified, and what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep, and then we'll take it to the next video, because I think some of this other data is going to be more important. All right, so NFL ID has a player identification number. It's unique across players. I may hold on to this because what I'm thinking here is I may want to take, I'm not saying that the average weight of the line is going to make a difference, but I'll tell you what, in special teams, sometimes if the weight of your line in the special teams formation could determine whether or not somebody gets a block punt or whatever. So there could be, or maybe a specific player on a team can make a huge impact on that. But it is a team specific, but I'll keep the NFL ID just because it is an ID column. I'm not too worried. I mean, height may make a case for, block punts or something like that, but we're just going to track block punts. I'm not worried about height. I might keep their weight in case I do want average weight. We'll talk about that later. Maybe the average age. So average, I'll just put these notes in here because it saves this. And maybe average age of the special teams may come into play. Their college, I mean, I'm not too concerned about college. I don't think that's going to have too much impact on that, although it might. The player position, that could be important, so I might just keep that, and then their name. I don't think that's going to matter too much. If I got their ID, I'll be able to see that. I'm trying to keep this as random and unbiased as possible, and knowing their name may put a little bias into it. Adding their name may put a little bias into the model. Game ID, that will probably come into play at some point, so we will keep that one. The season of game, I'm guessing, I don't know if that means season of the year or whatever, but to me that doesn't make any, that isn't going to matter. The week of the game, although there is usually attrition by the end of the year, that's not going to matter on an average perspective. I don't know how that's going to factor in there. The game date isn't really going to apply too much. I know there's Thursday night games, there's Saturday games. I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds, and I don't think the correlation on game time and season of the year and what week it is going to make that much difference in the overall performance of special teams. Although it might, and it might be something that we want to maybe set aside and look at. We'll look at the statistics and see if they fall into category. So we might keep those. In game time, I may just turn into a day game or a night game kind of situation. Maybe day and night. But again, we're just trying to figure out an overall factorization score. I'm really not too concerned about any of this stuff, although we will want like the team names, because we'll probably convert those to, we'll encode those so that we can have the team IDs at least. So we're definitely going to keep these and maybe encode that data. So that's a kind of look at the player and the game data. We'll stop it on this one, and then when we come back for the next video next week, we'll dive into some more of these positions. And If you have comments, suggestions, you think I should keep something, I just want you to keep in mind what the goal is. The ultimate goal is to try to find a factorization process to create a statistic for special teams. Not, not going on a week to week basis, but trying to find a few factors that contribute heavily to the performance of a special teams uh, period, I guess, to the special teams. And I don't know if like, the week or the season or the time of the game is going to make that much difference because it's going to vary per team throughout the year anyway. So I don't think those are going to matter too much. But if you have comments or suggestions or I'll set it aside in its own. I may create its own data frame and call it, removed data and just hold on to it so that I have it in case I want to bring it in. But for at least for the time being, I think this is good to hold on to for that. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week.